Here's a new number out of Washington. 10. That's how many Republican senators voted to fire Mitch McConnell as their party leader. Now, one might ask, how many have voted against McConnell in past leadership races? Is this a big, new, different number, a trend that means something? Well, let's start with the facts and the numbers as we try to do around here, because the answer is telling. 10 is the most highest public number of Republican senators to ever oppose McConnell for leader since he became leader a full 15 years ago, because this is the first time Republicans have even mounted a formal challenge to McConnell as leader, let alone one that now, tonight, in the news, I'm reporting for you, drew 1/5 of the GOP caucus. 1 out of 5 Republican senators saying, fire Mitch. So the vote itself is secret. McConnell did retain his post, and he may spend some energy trying to figure out who those opponents are, but some did already announce themselves in public as they tried to fuel the uphill bid against McConnell by Senator Rick Scott.
So we need new leadership in the Republican Party in Washington. This is why I will not support Mitch McConnell for leader.
Are you yourself backing Mitch McConnell? I don't recall.
Well, look, I think we ought to have to figure out, like you, Larry, I think what we have to do is say, what do we do going forward?
I am so pissed off I cannot even see straight. Mitch would rather be leader than have a Republican majority. If there's a Republican who can win who's not going to support Mitch, the truth of the matter is he'd rather the Democrat win.
Tough words from Ted Cruz. Today, McConnell did stop that criticism from reaching critical mass. He held on, and then he was typically tight-lipped about his own record or plans.
Yes, you were reelected, but this is the first challenge you have faced in 15 years as leader. 10 senators voted against you, 1 voted president. So what lesson did you learn from this, and will you change your approach at all?
At first, I don't own this job. Anybody who wants to run for it can feel free to do so.
Feel free. That's McConnell and McConnell. Didn't say a ton there. But ask McConnell about MAGA and the midterms. Turns out you'll get a longer answer. Let me tell you, it has been obvious for a long time. Most voters oppose Trump. And most voters, in most places, oppose Trump's mini-me's. Now, those MAGA folks we hear so much about, they can excel in extreme Republican primaries, and they can win in reliably red states. But go purple, or go to the mainstream, let alone the periwinkle blue that captures many of the left-of-center voters in many parts of the nation on issues ranging from freedom and equality to capitalism, well, you'll find a rejection of Trump and Trumpism. In 2020, we saw it. We saw it again with some of the MAGA-type candidates in this cycle, and especially the arrogant, sort of content-driven solipsism, and I don't use that word often or lightly, but the solipsism and selfishness that captured some of these extreme MAGA candidates who failed, who lost. And there's evidence supporting the political facts I just mentioned. Today, McConnell basically landed in the same place. So behold and listen to an analysis of these midterms by a person, McConnell, who knows politics, as he refers to the political math showing Republicans blew it by embracing those selfish MAGA candidates of chaos and negativity.
Here's the problem. We underperformed among voters who did not like President Biden's performance, among independents and among moderate Republicans who looked at us and concluded too much chaos, too much negativity, and we turned off a lot of these centrist voters, which is why I never predicted a red wave to begin with, if you all recall.
Too much negativity, too much chaos. That's the top Republican there. But if you're an addict, maybe there's no such thing as too much. Consider Lil Wayne's simple adage, too much money ain't enough money. Shout out to Wayne. But there is such a thing as too much chaos. And that's where McConnell worries his party is headed. Too much chaos, too much negativity. People don't like it. It's also usually an abrogation of your job, role, and constitutional obligations to root for chaos rather than governing. All this comes as Trump insists on announcing his campaign in probably the GOP's worst political week, well, since the last time he lost.
Moderate Republicans who looked at us and concluded too much chaos, too much negativity.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Those of us on the outside looking at it, it didn't seem that he got the old magic. You know what I mean?
It was so low energy that Jeb Bush called it low energy on Twitter.
Incredibly low energy. I actually saw people trying to leave and people leaving early.
I'll support the Republican nominee, but I don't know that it will be him.
I have a sense the American people want a new style of leadership.
And I'm a victim, I will tell you. I'm a victim.
Moderate Republicans who looked at us and concluded too much chaos, too much negativity.
Too much chaos ain't enough chaos. Well, for some politicians, even as the voters again say they've had enough. Hey, I'm Ari Melber. Thanks for watching The Beat. I wanted to let you know I'm writing a foreword to the January 6th committee's full report, which is coming out soon from HarperCollins. You can go pre-order the book right now, and it'll come to you first when the report comes out in the fall or whenever the government releases it. Just search Melber Jan 6 on Amazon or your favorite independent book site and click pre-order. You'll be the first to get both the report and my new piece on the coup conspiracy. You can also go to melberbook.com and order it there.